All right, it is now meeting start time. Yes, indeed. So, to kick things off, I posted you all the form there. It's just gauging where you're standing currently with the living world, what positions you might have interest in going forward. In addition to that, I have a document. This is a work in progress because we still have to go over other people's, suggestions in this regard. But this is what I brought up, looking over both what Chris and Legacy went over with me. Just a general overview of certain things.
Mhm.
It's not super detailed, but it's a bit more of a visual representation of what we're looking at, and Legacy's documents more of a written concept of it because it's heavily detailed. Legacy's one, so there's some things in there just like this is no longer needed.
Excuse me, sorry. So the region heads, they're still going to be a thing in this new sign?
Yes, because the idea here is that we will probably be having a region head of, for example, the region of Kalbesh, which is on the western continent, and then a region head of, for example, Vazia, which is on the eastern continent. That way, if you are a region head and you would like to still play, because I will be limiting region heads to not have player characters, you could have a player character in the eastern continent. So, if you're western continent region
Nice.
head, you can do things in the eastern continent, and
Smart.
vice
This would
versa.
limit a lot of the problems lore-wise because some DMs shouldn't know everything when it comes to lore, especially if they have a player character. Like for example, if there's a big quest planned for a region and the DM of that region isn't the one running it, and they know what's happening with their, and they have a player character in that region, they could use that as metagaming knowledge.
Mhm.
Even if they don't intend to, they might accidentally use it. So the best bet is to just make it so that basically, if there's something happening in a region, the DMs there are the ones handling it, and they don't have any direct interaction with it aside from NPCs or running the quests,
Yep,
because their characters will be in other regions, basically.
exactly.
The only
Nice.
thing I would
And
have to say on this is that if on the other continent, if they're running a special event and have to make impromptu games or events that might contradict like their schedule of their game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for anything impromptu, especially for the assistant GMs, those tend to be so low impact that they should not cause any real issues.
Mhm.
Um,
mm,
yeah.
I have a question too because like wouldn't be I know I think it's a good idea to like for DM to try their best to stay away from the region they're DMing, but sometimes what if like plot guides them sometimes? I mean they're you know it's like that can happen.
Hmm.
Then NPCs can be used. NPCs are still like, if you are a DM of a region and you want to interact with the region somehow, using a character, you could use NPCs. If your PC very specifically has to come to your region for whatever reason, first off, that shouldn't happen in the first place because the whole point of this is to keep that from happening. Secondly, if it does happen, it can be oversaw and it wouldn't be a permanent thing. It'd be a temporary thing, hopefully.
Mhm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, like in the fact that let's say one group has a very important plot, like boss encounter. However, it just so happens that on the another continent, the same thing's happening. You
Mhm.
might like what would be the case then? Would like the assistant take over that spot, or would
So I was actually going to bring this up this meeting. So there's going to be a lot of different DM types. Obviously, we talked about like an idea of the basically helper DMs or assistant GMs. Those guys are literally just people who have asked to help out around the server, either with running NPCs, running quests, running encounters, anything that would be considered non-canon or basically just for the purpose of gaining XP for players or gaining equipment or levels, whatever. They will run most of that stuff. And it doesn't matter because they won't know the lore of the world. They don't need to worry about any of that. The GM levels ahead of them are going to be the ones running most of the quests for different regions. Above them will obviously be the region heads, the people running very specific regions. And maybe alongside that, we could also have senior GMs or people who are able to or designated to run worldwide events, stuff that happens across continents or in multiple continents, something like that.
Indeed. And I can definitely see late game where it becomes more common for like region DMs to go to their own region due to teleportation spells. But generally, for that regard, um, It's easy enough for you to try your best to avoid going to your own continent. And if it does happen, recusal rules will occur.
Wouldn't it just be easier to like double up on like region GM, so it's not just one, so people could do things surrounding?
Well, yeah, there would be regional DMs typically, like people who are able to run events in a region. Obviously, there is the region head, the person who's in charge of the lore for a region. But there could be multiple region heads. Say if it's the main region of the server, the place that everyone goes, there might be multiple so that there could be more activity within the team, you know?
Indeed. It's just all really going to depend on what regions we want to choose and the population we have of DMs and assistant GMs and so on and so forth to determine where our resources should be allocated the most.
Okay, that answers my question.
And agreed with you there, Robert. Or prefer Reaper.
For reference, this is not dissimilar to how it used to work in the old world. It's just obviously we're going to have tighter limitations. So.
Oh yeah. Are we gonna have a level cap?
There'll probably be a level cap, but that shouldn't be too much of an issue going forward, as the way that I currently have the leveling up system is kind of how I do in my own games, where it is a different track of experience that slowly, I guess, slows down the higher level you get, so that way lower level people can catch up, and it's easier to do certain things. I know that my Sunday group, they're already level 12 now, so they're starting to get into the slow tracks and the like.
Question?
Yes.
If the XP is tracked normally, this means like the XP is also gained normally, like from clean monsters, etc. Because again, that's or it's going to be also like the alternative.
No, it's a different system. It's not tracking XP from monsters.
Correct.
Okay, because I always thought it really promotes murder hoboing.
Yeah. No.
Mission XP, right?
No.
It'll be based upon objectives.
Oh, great.
Yes, objective-based experience. So if your mission has the objective of finding the hidden relic within the dungeon, that would be an objective. If it has a side objective of defeating the dungeon's boss, that could be objective 2.
Yeah.
There also might be ways
with XP.
There also might be ways within the civilian system that we're going to rework to gain XP, although those will be much, much toned down, just so people don't have to actively quest constantly in order to get XP. Something like that could exist.
Regarding
like an MMO
experience, let me go and share this for you guys. I'm gonna make this one specifically you guys can view and comment.
In before we come.
All right. There is that document. That is a basic thing I wrote up like 30 minutes ago. Just covered the different mission types and then experience. I was going to continue working on it, but then I noticed that we had 5 minutes left. And I was like, oh, I need to be in the meeting before I finish going over how experience works. But for purposes of stream, let me switch my thing to, not stream, recording. Let me switch it to my, there we go. So just goes over the basic concepts of minor to campaign style missions. These numbers aren't. See, I tried raised with the Z, and it was like, no, that is not a word. But the numbers here are not set in stone. So like 1 to 6 sessions for minor. I mean, that's something we can fully discuss. These are just my baseline ideas that I had for this.
So my suggestion for the minor missions is those should be the ones that the assistant DMs run, and those should be specifically like almost always 1 session long, but they can be a few more, and they should not have any impact on the overall plot of the world.
Yeah. My main thing with minor missions, I fully agree with you there, is that they're also listed here in terms of like standard DMs because they might be, for example, a side quest assigned from a campaign. And that should have a proper DM.
Well, that could be a lesser mission then. You know, if it's a side quest from an actual DM about something that has to do with a major mission or in some adjacency to it, you know?
I guess as a side note from the things we did have an issue with before is kind of like as we had told the aspirants
going forward, try to avoid doing one session missions because we always had the issue of people speedrunning them.
Mm-hmm.
And that became a huge issue to the point where you had everyone just going from left, right, and they didn't really do anything except try and speedrun it.
One of the things there,
What's that time suddenly level
for
12?
any one session missions and anything like of that nature, to counteract speedrunning, I do plan on putting the objective-based experience gain akin to the session's length. So it's not gonna increase drastically for higher session length missions, but any lower missions where it's like a single session, I don't want it to give the same experience that like a 3-session mission would give for completing the objective.
I also suggest having a cap so that people don't just do really long missions just for the purpose of giving players lots of XP.
Yes, agreed.
I say
No.
assistant DMs should be probably capped at like 2, maybe 3 sessions per mission.
For assistant GM missions?
Hmm?
Sorry, I was reading.
For assistant GMs, yeah. Theirs should be capped at just 2 to 3. That way we don't have assistant GMs running 6 or 8 session games and padding out time just so that people could get more XP, you know?
I can see that. If we want to just set minor missions to be the assistant GM mission category, I mean, that's easy enough to do. We can just adjust that and rename some things.
I suggest that because then the lesser and major could be like lesser could easily be the side quests, whereas major are main quests. And then the campaign length ones are ones that are not even major. They're like, you know, they're campaigns. They're meant to be taking place over dozens of sessions at that point, you know?
Is the intent that these should be rerunnable or repeatable or run more than once?
For the minor sessions, yes.
Yeah, minor definitely can. Lessers to a certain extent because
just change a few names.
Yeah, I mean, generally with lesser missions, there could be a mission where you're just dealing with bandits and you're trying to take out a bandit fort as your main mission there, but it could have a pretty high rippling effect to it. It could be a similar thing where there's like this other bandit fort that if you already have the structure there for you, why waste time when you can just
to give an example of how each mission would be structured, like a minor mission, which are the ones assistants would be running, would be like a single bandit attack or taking out a single bandit encampment. Nothing major. It wouldn't affect really any story whatsoever, and it would usually be 1 to 2 sessions long. A lesser mission would be purging the bandits out of a region, making it so there's no more bandits here. This might have rippling effects and would take longer, usually a few sessions. A major mission might be there is a bandit stronghold that is effectively the size of a small town, and they have control over almost an entire continent in terms of the drug trade or whatever. So your goal is to take them down. And a campaign might be that, but on a larger level, maybe worldwide. Basically.
So is the intent here for the assistants to be able to run a mission without necessarily having to write them? Is that the goal here? Okay.
And also so that we don't have to vet them as much, because right now the DMing process, we need to give them training, they need to be vetted properly, they need to have some time periods. It's a long process for people to become official GMs of the server, and as such we need a roll lower than that so a lot of the smaller quests can be run. And also, this means that assistant GMs can still have player characters because they don't have access to the lore of the world, and their player characters obviously can't participate in their own games, but this does mean that assistant GMs can be a role that literally anybody picks up just as an off thing so that they can slowly work their way up the ladder, or I don't know, we might give them rewards for their characters if they run games.
Indeed.
Stuff like that.
And it also boosts games that we'll be running out as well.
Mm-hmm.
But that is the general overview of that I have set up. Feel free to send comments and all that. Definitely need to adjust minor missions on there. Experience system, it needs to be tweaked, but currently the way I do my experience in my games would be using Pathfinder's experience tracks of fast, medium, and slow, and I just kind of have it as I wrote there, where if you hit 5th level, the track changes from fast to medium. If you hit 10th level, it changes from medium to slow. Those values are pretty crazy. I wouldn't want it to be exactly the same. I prefer just simple whole numbers rather than 1,635, for example. But overall, that is a general idea of where I think we should go with experience. That way, low-level people can actually catch up, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
And it
Are we
should.
going to go to 20?
Eventually, I would like to be able to do some campaigns in 20. I think for right now, we should have some level cap just to get people used to the world.
Yeah.
I'd say probably about level 5, because that seems when the power levels really kick
So
off.
I do have a suggestion that a few other servers have implemented. Once we do get past the level 10 level cap and people start making their way towards level 20, we could implement what I have done on other servers called a prestige system, where basically you reset your level down to 1, but you get some permanent buffs for not just your character, but account wide, basically.
I like
And
that.
that would encourage people to reset their power level, and it would also give longtime players a reason to keep playing the game past level 20.
Maybe it could be a function more like the retirement system, where instead of like literally resetting your level to 1, just you say the guy's retired and then the next
Yeah.
guy
Well,
inherits the buffs.
yeah, as it usually goes, you have 3 options. You can either NPC your character, which basically means that your character now is an NPC in the world. You cannot control them unless you're a DM, etc. You can kill your player either dies or is killed, or you kill your player, like I don't know, they just fall into a pit and die or something. And the third option is they retire peacefully. You know,
So
Imagine
effectively a
retiring
pseudo
in
genealogy mechanic.
potentially. It would be a bit more, a bit less children focused than that, and more like just
Fair.
mechanic focused, because children is a touchy subject we probably don't want to get into in this living world. So yeah.
I have a suggestion for as far as like soft level cap ideas.
Yeah.
And like, I think that soft level caps should reflect tech and arcane level, or whatever, the either mystical or the scientific portion of the actual continent that it's on. So a lower tech or arcane level continent would have a lower soft level cap than one that's very, very, very high tech.
It can definitely work.
Hmm.
Though it does mean if we do have a cap like that, we definitely cannot have it set in the Fwinden region, because they're the highest tech in the world.
Yeah. It would also mean that, obviously, tech is then superior to magic.
Well, I meant tech including with magic, like the overall like knowledge of either divinity magic, arcane magic, or tech, because those
Okay.
three are kind of the main pillars of like
I
power.
guess sophistication is the best way to say.
Yeah, the more sophisticated an area where people can create characters, the more sophisticated it is, the higher level they should have access to.
Yeah, I agree that with Royal that people might want to stick in the best quote unquote area rather than not being there.
Yeah.
I don't know, just an idea that you can you feel free to say no. It's just an idea to think about.
Yeah.
As Nut says, if there are separate level caps, there should be relative. There should be benefits and drawbacks to being in either or. Grind boards for 20 levels. Let's go.
Oh man, just reminds me of
My
something.
favorite quest: go kill 10 bears, and then after you complete that quest, you get the next quest, and it's like collect 10 bear pelts, and you want to kill the NPC.
Here's a major point of discussion for the server as a whole, actually.
It's coming. Just give it some time.
Man, just bear army.
What if a DM just makes a quest of ever escalating bears? Eventually it gets like dire bears, and then the dire bears that eat other kinds of dire bears.
That would be unbearable.
Ba-da-ba.
Oh,
nice.
God.
Nerb.
Yes.
What's the design philosophy of the world? Is it meant to be able to contain anything and everything, or focused on a style of fantasy, or something else? Give us your thoughts.
So the world itself actually has multiple different regions that can all fit a style of fantasy. For example, the region of Fwinden and the Frontier, that's very much of a Wild West, or more appropriately a Weird West style thing, with a lot of like Indiana Jones and what's the word for it? Not like not Raiders of the Lost Ark, but there's some supernatural
Yeah.
elements to that region. But it's definitely
I love Weird West.
steampunk, cowboy, Weird West stuff. Then there's a region that is full on like survival horror. There's another region that is
Oh, I love.
tyrannical government, rebellion style. There's another one where it's just the land of bards. So if you want to, have
Just
bardic,
bards?
well, I mean, there's more than bards, but if you want to have bardic showdowns, that's the world or the region to go to.
Rat battle region, let's go.
Yep. There's regions that are fairly traditional D&D. Then there's regions that are fairly low fantasy settings. It can fit all sorts of spectrums. So it's where do we want to really focus these things. Previously in the server I had set up before this was switched over, I had Kalbesh, which is the region of bards, as the big main region to kick things off at. Just because that was where I was working the most at the time, focusing my lore creation, adding those factions, which is where those 3 factions are from, would be from Kalbesh. But overall, whatever regions everyone thinks that we should focus in on, I'm okay with that. I'm open to deciding where we want our 2, maybe 3 or 4 living world regions to be set.
So other than the sea, is there anything that's big that prevents continental travel? Like, is there like leviathans in the sea or something
There's
like that?
definitely sea monsters. It depends on which part of the sea you're going to. So let me go bring up the world map and blink it for you guys here, and change the recording to the browser.
So to answer someone's question, the regions interacting, I think, will be kind of up to the politics people, those guys. They'll basically come up with ideas and present them to the region heads, and then the regions can interact that way. And they would also be up to any major DMs that want to run like worldwide events. But for the most part, they would not interact, I'd imagine.
Yeah, for the most part, they want to interact.
Because
All right.
I was just thinking, like, what's to prevent?
I think there
like...
was a little confusion from the historical context.
Not maybe.
Region used to mean sections of a continent.
Oh, in this case, region, I am referring to countries. So, like, you would have the country of Kalbesh. Continents are their own thing. When I say continent, I do mean continent. When I say region, I mean, if you're looking at the world map, I mean, like, Kalbesh is a region, Golden Marches is a region, Barony of Vazi is a region.
Right. There are continents and then there are regions within each continent.
Yes.
Okay, that's the terminology.
Yeah.
Okay, and for clarification, Kydron, Midgard, and Albion are planets. They're like different worlds, right? Separated by astral sea or whatever.
So, Kydron 100% is a planet separated by the astral sea, which is the name I use for space. It's not fully like the astral sea in the Forgotten Realm setting is more akin to like our outer space. Not to say it's more of like a fantasy style, because ships be doing what they do. Anyways.
Sunless
See if
skies.
you can find a boat.
Yeah.
Yo, sunless skies.
Kind of lost my train of thought there for a bit.
I'm assuming the other ones are more continents on a planet.
Yes. So Midgard and Albion. Albion's an island on a planet of Syrik. Midgard is also not really a country, because there's I think like 20-something countries in that region, but it is a region on the northernmost continent of Syrik. And the continent itself is known as the Frostfell. That whole region, Albion and Midgard, both of those are in Syrik, which is under Apocalypse, so not exactly a safe place to be, so I want to focus it, at least for now, on Kydron.
Okay, and then the map for Kydron is the entire, like, planet, right?
Yes, it is the planetary map. So you have all the continents,
Okay,
all
got
that
it.
visible. There's things that are not shown here, in case like we want to add an island like in the middle of the sea in between, like in the Stormlands at the heart there, for example. Just in case we want something and it's not shown.
Okay, but it's not going to be like there's not going to be like I don't know, like an entire Australia just randomly on the
Exactly.
map.
Yeah, everything,
Okay.
any major continent is shown and known at this point in time.
Got it. Okay, so the world has been, I guess, explored and inhabited.
Yes. But regarding the travel with water issues that we were discussing earlier, for the most part, most travel from Schulte, which is the western continent here, would be traveling westward. So it took actually a bit of time before they actually traveled east and found the middle continent of Shabos. And that is because of the seas in between. They are filled with different sea creatures, of massive storms, of leviathans, sea serpents, all things of that nature, especially with the rift right there in the southern section. It really didn't start opening up to the western continent until the Confederacy of Fwindon built airships and managed to just sail across, or I guess fly across. Either way, there's airships. As for how they got to the easternmost continent of Hakuda, they generally took the coastlines either north along the Arctic region up there or down on the south along the continent of Barud. And they just, traveled to the other side.
So the main reason why I asked is because I want to know, like, what is the primary region of focus? And so it seems to be Kaldrin.
Yeah, the primary planet of focus would be Kydrin. Primary region within Kydrin would probably be, I think, for traditional style play with a bit of a panache added to it, I think Kalbush would be a good choice, just because it's a more standard D&D, but it also has bards, and you could literally become king by beating the king in a bardic duel.
Let's fucking go.
I don't know if that's going to be true for much longer, though, because one of my players in the Sunny group is currently trying to vie to be king, and they might change how that functions. But that is the current makeup that region.
So Mixus Tapus is going to rule.
But other than that, I do think some of the weirder regions, such as Arlogus or the Golden Marches, would be fun, simply because of their strange natured. Like I can remember playing Morrowind, and it was just amazing seeing all the weird architecture and the different plant lives and whatnot. Overall, though, a lot of these regions I'm currently working on. I'm currently working on the Stormlands write-up. I finished Arundel's last night. Kalbesh is done. Confederacy's done. Golden Marches, Vazia, Rayla. A lot of these regions in the eastern are actually finished because I'm running campaign there now, and they're probably going to be going over a lot of places. But
and then the volcano on the eastern continent, that's where the meteor struck, correct?
Yes, the eastern continent is where the meteor struck, as you can see from the giant burning ashen lands there with the volcano in the center.
Got it.
As for chat questions, let me just pop it off of that real quick. Oh yeah, certainly with the guns interaction, especially since guns themselves in universe do ignore half armor bonus from any armor that's not ballistically enhanced. So, like, regions will certainly need to start upgrading their armors if they want to stay viable against the Confederacy, which is kind of the point, actually. They've been exceeding rapidly because of their invention of firearms and the strength that they were gained from the airships, and just their technological advancement has pushed them far ahead of everyone else.
Yeah, from the reading through the World Anvil, it looks like the after the fall of Visa or whatever, now fire drone confederacies on the rise as the new like expanding like empire that's trying to be.
Yeah, they're the big boy British Empire conquering things, or British, Spanish, French, just combined. They're the biggest empire. where everyone else are just like the medieval Renaissance
Laughing
era.
British.
Yeah. But you know.
So this also begs the question about limitation on firearms. How like easy access do the firearms have in this world?
So firearms are excessively easy to access within the Confederacy. So if you're in Fwindin, the capital of Aetherstorm, you can just go to any one of the guild shops and just be like, I want to buy a Gatling gun. I'm like, cool, here you go. How much ammo do you want? 3 boxes? Excellent.
Wonderful, my lord.
Yep. Outside of it, though, they are very hard to come by. Generally, it's about between, depending on which region you're in. So if you're like in a region where the Confederacy has a trade deal with, it might be double price. If you're in a region far off in the distance, it might be 10 times the value.
I can already see the players starting to smuggle guns.
Yeah, I mean there is a market for it, which is why for my players in my Friday group, I have guns listed as double price because generally you'll be buying smuggled weapons there.
You hear that, Corey? We get to work with guns.
So I'd imagine that they have some kind of like what is it? I don't know, like basically border police to just make sure the fact that guns aren't legally leaving the country to just be given to,
Yes.
their enemies.
Yeah. There's unfortunately their island actually has a lot of smugglers' coves, so it's fairly difficult for them, but they do put a lot of their resources to trying to keep that in check. They also have a whole issue with terrorists attacking them right now, but that's another story.
Okay.
Small aside.
Yes.
Back to the organization. What was the previous role of the lore keeper, stenographer, and survey head roles?
So though the latter two, I mean we didn't really use them. Stenographer was just to type up meetings, so we have meeting notes every meeting. I was doing that myself. Obviously, I cannot do that since I am now leading it, and I can't type what I'm saying at the same time as typing everyone else's things. So that one could still be useful, but either way, if we don't have that, I'm just going to go after the meeting and transcribe everything for us. Or just post the VOD. Either way works for me. As for the secretary, that one was just to help out with keeping track of things for he who shall not be named in this recording. Obviously not needed anymore. A lore keeper is for those who are able to just basically type things into the world anvil, keep lore up to date, basically help me adding things that you guys make or that I make in like stream, for example, if I don't type it down, onto the world anvil so it's on the wiki, as well as answering any lore questions. Essentially, they are those who are extra into the lore and are ready to help answer questions.
So wiki editor. Gotcha.
Essentially, yeah.
It's helpful for DMs to have questions answered,
Especially if I'm not around because I'm asleep or something.
I'll update it. I wasn't sure if they were still necessary.
Yeah,
Also,
I think they are. Go ahead.
It might be good to actually create a lore video giving the general gist of where your current world is at. I'm happy to get with you if you want to try and come up with something. But I feel like that would be very pertinent. A short video that gives enough information to get the general gist of everything.
Yeah, definitely. I have been planning on getting one of those set up. I just want to get the base region lores written out first before I unleash a lore video. Because I wasn't planning on releasing this for like a year or so, probably 2 years. So a lot of regions are not fleshed out, and the core lore of the planet, while it is in my brain, is not on paper, and I want to be able to like post things as I go over things so people can read up as I discuss.
Oh wait, one more. Lore Master. Is that deprecated?
It's not required anymore. It was essentially going to be a paid version of Lore Keeper.
Following through with that, I already PM'd you about it, but I was thinking about making like a general like lore sheet with like just like I don't know, general like guidelines, like limitations, like this is possible in the world, this isn't, like, you know, this is kind of how this stuff functions, and just to get a general baseline of like what we can and can't do, so that everything's consistent, and then, you know, from there we can start moving forward and making more stuff.
Yeah. Definitely. I did see your post. I need to get with you with that, but yeah, definitely having one of those set up because I do plan on letting you guys like make your own mark on the world, being able to make your own villages, maybe even your own countries. Because some of the countries I don't have much going on for them. For example, if you look at the world map, if you look at the southern continent on the eastern side, there's the city of Baraka. That is a Loxodon, a Mammoth Folk home city, and I plan on having a country there kind of based around that. But that's pretty much the gist of what I have for that particular country's region. So like that's fairly open for people if they want to, you know, have fun writing things there. Um, as long as the writing is sent to me or Lore Keeper once we get those set up, I can then get them placed and put on the World Anvil in the same format that all the other countries are in. And that's the big thing. I want them in the same format and you know, set up on it.
I gotcha. It's just I mean, I don't know about everyone, but I know I and some other people work better with like I don't know, like an idea of like what is and isn't possible, and so I just kind of want to set that up.
Mm-hmm. Indeed, but it is possible. Um, Definitely, as I noticed in the chat, there is a more Viking style settlement down south on the western side. Their capital specifically Skjalborg. Um, that's on the coast there. They are definitely raiders and the like, very reminiscent of Sweden and Norway. But that's
Speaking
again
of both the
basic
lore
idea.
and the overall design, how much would you like or be willing to have people working on the world itself in this construction phase?
Yeah, I mean, people are free to bring me ideas. Anything on the map here that has a purple icon, I'm going to be trying to update some because some of them do have, for example, Arendelle I updated last night, and Stormlands I updated last night. Um, Apparently, still need to add Rayla, Arlogus. Okay, there's like 4 of these purple icons, the purple exclamation points, that do have a write-up already, but anything other than those 4, which I'll probably be setting up later tonight, so they are shown properly. If they have that icon, they don't have a full write-up, so you are free to send write-ups and, you know, see if they can get added in. You can even go into detail, like more specific stuff. So if you want to work on, for example, something that's already made, so like the Golden Marches, for example, you can give me information on perhaps how their caste system or their religion might work, so you can go into detail there if you'd like. Because those things I don't actually have written. I'm trying to get the countries themselves written up so people have a baseline idea of what they are like.
Maybe it would be best to create a team of people per region that is both unknown or that is somewhat semi-known, because you already have, you know, regions that are already known.
Yeah.
But maybe delegate to those that are unknown, the political team or the previous what would have been the clan heads or who are interested in, you know, running stuff for the region. Maybe having them get together and start throwing ideas uh, at you, or like maybe you just give the general gist of what you have and have them like run it and approved by the lore team and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely.
I think that's what the region heads are for, pretty much.
I definitely want to give a Google sheet going over, as you suggested, the different regions, what's currently there, and what needs work, and so on and so forth, and getting teams set up to get it ready. Having the different region heads lead this charge definitely be preferred. That way they're already in the lore process, so they would already have all the lore they would need to know, and would be building onto it, so they would be fully immersed essentially. Regarding your post there, Reaper, let's see. Oh yeah, definitely. Would love to have something like that. I already kind of posted one thing on the timeline. The most recent one, the Lost Fable. That is my Sunday group. But having, a chronicle of adventures of heroes and all that would be excellent, especially once we open things up and get, players doing some crazy stuff. Definitely.
Okay, does anyone have any more thoughts on the organization front? Because we sidetracked on the lore quite a bit.
We didn't cover. I meant to ask this last time. Are we going to do waves of players or DMs?
So, player count, that's still something I'm unsure of. I know Legacy was interested in just having it be open, or at least that's what the document led me to believe. I do think we should kick off just with a small number of players just to test things out, see how things function, and then we can kick off into a larger population.
Yeah, I also don't think we need to do any kind of like gating for any purpose, especially with the DM team, because we already have the assistant DMs. That should solve a lot of the problems we have.
Yeah, I don't think we should gate it either. I just think that players should be aware going forward that if it is not gated, the number of players we will have could determine how many games can actually be run properly. So I'm not really sure how I want to do that, just because if we have, for example, like 1,000 players, which I don't think is going to be the case immediately or any time relatively soon. But if we do, and we have like a current staff of 64 DMs currently online, that's not exactly a game a week or game even 2 weeks. So assuming that each DM does 1 game a week, I'm sure some will probably do more. Like I myself ran 3 games in 1 week at one point.
So I was going to bring up the civilian system. I'll still wait on that, but it does tie into this. So if it's completely unlimited, right? So we have to keep in mind it's a living world, right? It's not like Adventures League or something where you can play once a year and that's perfectly fine. If it's a living world and your character is progressing in the world, there could be a point where we have so many players compared to the DM population that they can only get to play maybe once a year. And we have to ask ourselves, is that what we want? I don't think so.
Yeah.
For them only playing once a year, I highly doubt that's going to happen. Considering the
That
number of
happened.
players,
It happened before.
That's a bit odd. So considering that there are other servers with larger populations of player counts and about the same number of DMs, honestly, they have no problems with this kind of stuff. They run games not even weekly, honestly, daily for players. And yeah, I don't see this ever becoming an issue until we reach like in the thousands of player count, which probably won't be for a while.
I think most of us here were dealing with Verum, where I think it's due to all the toxicity that we dealt with it. Most of us were unaware of. We did have issues with like getting players into games, which is why we were transitioning to this paid system where DMs are being paid, so they would be running their games weekly. So I can definitely see the concern there.
I'm just saying it's hearsay, right? We don't actually know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Chris is basing it off his experience. I'm basing it off my experience. It is a possibility, and I think that we should know that it's a possibility and have something in place if it gets there.
Yeah. So
well, that's what That's what the assistant DMs are for, pretty much. Their goal is to be a lesser DM team that doesn't require any oversight or overhead, that can just run games constantly, you know? Even though they're small, short games, it should still satiate a lot of the player base, you know? That also frees up a lot of the other DMs' time so they can actually make a lot better encounters, so they don't have to constantly be running small games.
Yeah. The assistant DMs will
Yeah.
definitely need some oversight, but yeah, I
Yeah,
get you.
minimal oversight, basically, is what I mean.
Yeah.
I think
Compared to the actual games.
I could see it working out where we could do waves at the beginning with the idea of it being open, like as we continue.
Yeah, I mean, as we continue, definitely enhancing the number of players we have during the testing phase, into the beta phase, and into the so and so phase, until we are ready to see if we can indeed open up freely. I do.
I'm not saying we shouldn't be open. I think that's actually the best way to do it. But
yes,
you have to understand what the repercussions are.
Yes, indeed. I fully agree. We definitely need to test the waters, get it open to a small population, maybe like 100, and then continue on from there, increasing the numbers as we go, as like the months pass, until we might finally decide, if things are going pretty smoothly, to open it entirely to everyone.
Hopefully we don't run into the same issues we ran into in Verum, where basically we had a ever-expanding Tier 3 population as people leveled up, but a DM Tier 3 staff that were just constantly burning out or being pushed away, resulting in no games for the veteran.
And that's exactly what I mean. We don't know what can happen, and just have to consider it.
Well, there's also the side of this that's not going to be how the DM structure works anymore. The DM structure is going to be changing vastly, you know?
I mean, I understand that it'll be helpful, but I don't think it's an impossibility with the new DM structure.
Yeah.
Well, throw me at the high level characters. I'm not ready, but I'd love it.
Okay, bud.
My thoughts on the lore aspects NERP. As a whole, fleshing out every aspect will put immense strain on you and stall things out. If you are just looking to put out just regional guidelines and general overviews and then having the region heads and other staff writing inside to add the fine details, that'll probably be significantly easier in most aspects, but it's important to make sure you're comfortable.
Yeah. I agree with all that.
Well said.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I want you guys to be able to help and do all that stuff. You're even able to help with regions. I don't want to have lore vids just yet until I have the base regions set up. So, things are open right now. If you guys are free, if you see a region, you're free to start writing things and send them my way, and we can work together and get things set up. And once we have a lore team, we can get them helping out too.
I guess the question becomes,
Right.
when are we going to
I'll do a general plan for you later.
The question then becomes, when are we going to select region heads, various staff positions? Like, how and when are we doing all that?
So the form I posted earlier in Council General, that is going over what people have interested in, which positions they might want to go in forward, and all that stuff. So once that form is filled out by everyone, then we can discuss where people will be going. Especially since I have transferred, just in case, because I actually don't know who the owner of the server, not the server, the Google Drive is. I feel like it's me, but I don't know. So I transfer all those to my own personal drive, and I'm going to put people who are signing up on that form on the new drive.
You're the owner of the old one, just for clarity's sake.
Well, this one's easier for me to find. I don't have to go to shared with me anymore.
Fair enough.
I just can click on it.
That's not. Is that the same form that Shrub handed out?
This is a new one. It has specific things like that. The other one was just gauging how many people were going to roughly stay.
Yeah. This one is gauging what
just making
roles
sure.
you're interested in.
It is currently pinned in Council General when you get to it.
I actually have like a bunch of bullet points that I was gonna use to like work on my own world. So like, if you want to look over that for inspiration.
Hey, question.
Shoot
There's
over.
no position for balance team on the thing.
Pretty sure that falls under creation team.
I also think it falls under creation team.
because that's how we had it before. Where
Okay, so how do I apply for creation team then? Because it's also not on there.
Well, just put it in there yourself.
Oh,
Obviously.
he's saying the form.
I'll
I
go fix the
cannot.
form. I'll go fix the form.
Please, thank you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Stats for that. Let me go grab them real quick. I think it was like 60 people on the old form signed for DM. 79.8% said that they'd be staying even if we couldn't guarantee pay. The others were maybe or not staying. We have a decent amount of spread, so I would say guaranteed around 50 to 45 people for game masters.
That's pretty decent out of the 63 that are still on the server.
All right, I have creation team added. What else should I add to the roles? Just anything
I don't know.
I'm missing.
Do you have openings in the admin team?
I mean, probably. I don't really see myself holding the adventure admin, considering I'm now director.
Oh, that'll be an interesting one. Yes, option 11. That's my favorite one, actually.
Under the new structure, they'd be elected positions anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. Can I apply for that position somehow?
Yeah, I mean, it's open. Essentially, at this point, it's just creation and adventure, and tech will be something if we get to that. I know there's people who are still here from tech. I just don't know if the role's really needed with 2 people. And as for Wanderer, I know that they are wanting to be more of a player going forward, so they're going to be dropping their admin tag. But let's see here. I think we're good there then. All right.
Has the form been updated then?
It should be updated.
Okay, cool.
All right. There we
Does
go.
tech still exist as a tag? I can start putting the roles together today if we want to temporarily, although I'd rather apply normally after.
It's got a tag, yeah.
Yeah, tech has a tag.
Tech admin tag, I mean.
Oh.
I believe that has a tag too, yeah.
Yeah, let's see. Roles. Yeah, it's got tech admin.
I'm just happy that the lore is actually going to be like cumulative instead of just like casted down like every once in a blue moon.
It would be nice to actually have good lore teams, and instead of just one person knowing everything.
To have lore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not wrong there.
Going back a little bit, fully agree with what Reaper said. Having our players and DMs doing essentially a book of their adventures would definitely help in lore things, keeping track of what happened in sessions and all that. So I think encouraging our players to write mission notes would be something that we should look into. Something I do for my games is I grant them inspiration if they provide a journal for the session.
We could provide maybe extra XP or rewards.
Yeah, I previously did experience rewards. I asked my players currently in my Friday group, and they were actually against that, as it basically made it feel like they had to do it if they wanted to stay relevant in experience with the others.
Maybe extra.
I have an idea.
Items then.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we could. So I don't know if there's a Bard's College or anything.
There is.
But maybe there's like an organization in lore that likes gathering the stories of
buy
adventures.
Your journals.
Yeah, they buy your journals and they give you gold for it.
Yep. Yeah, that could work.
Definitely. And so we have a bunch of lore based on what happens in the world, just all put into one place. Maybe it's a forum or something, and we can organize that at like the end of major phases and just like pick and choose what we want from it, and we'd have all the authors and character names associated with it.
The only problem I would see for that is there would be a possibility of inflation. Also, if people from the same groups sold this pretty much the same story, it might we might have to consider that to be like less valuable, and it's
Maybe
going
it's
to
just
be kind of hard.
maybe it's just a
Well,
lore explanation for a mechanical system that's just like if you write a backstory, you get like 5 silver or something. I don't know. Something that is
like
not necessary.
so.
I think the inspiration thing might just be good enough, to be honest.
So I was about to say, getting the same story from Five Adventures is actually beneficial because it corroborates the story as a whole. Because if you just get one account from one person, it could be biased.
Oh, fair enough.
You don't get
I'm
your background equipment unless you write a full backstory including how you got the items and money.
That,
Or
that actually might not be a bad idea.
I think that might be too much.
It'd be a
Or-
barrier to entry certainly, but if not, it's not a terrible idea.
Well, I
Or
mean,
if
it
you're
could be
taking
just as simple as like, I was this for many years. Now I just want to adventure. It could be anything like that, but just like something, not just nothing.
we could make it so that way when you're writing this journal and you're writing a journal of a mission you were on, the person that paid you to go on this mission wants to see these journals to see that you actually did the job. And so if they start seeing a bunch of inconsistencies between your journals, they're like, the fuck were you out there doing?
Yeah. And honestly, having journals for players, it does help build their own writing ability. So I mean, it's helpful for us and for them.
Truth.
Like, I previously did not write pretty much of anything. I only started doing real write-ups when Verum kicked off, so.
Feel that?
Let's see here.
Yeah. I'm still of the opinion that it shouldn't be too much, like, so that they, feel that they have to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Maybe we could do
Yeah.
something entirely different where we give them like every time they do a write up, they get like 1 XP for a cosmetic roll purposes. Like how Me6 offers a cosmetic roll, and the more they submit their stories, the better cosmetic roll they get, something like that. Basically, if they,
That'd be neat.
and we could use this for other systems as well. So writing up a thing after quest of like what your character saw and did, but also we could do like if they have a better backstory, we give them more points for this, and basically it'd be like if they're a player who actually cares about the world in a more obvious way, and it'd be an easier way for us to see that. I don't know. It's just an idea.
Yeah, maybe.
Keep in mind, something I always say is that the whole point of balance is to serve fun. So if you're suggesting a balance, something that is not fun, then the thing is something else.
Well, yeah, that's why I'm offering like a cosmetic thing. That's entirely like basically the only purpose.
Yeah,
of this grab.
it wasn't directed at you, but the conversation in general.
Yeah.
All right. Someone asked for my sheet that I use. I just had a quick edit to it, but here is that sheet. It is a view sheet, so you'll need to make a copy, and then you'll have access to it. But yeah.
Nice.
Cool.
Right.
All right. Cool.
Someone pin that.
Yeah.
Yep. But that is what my players use. For those who don't just use Obsidian Portal, because I also have Obsidian Portal sheets.
I just use D&D Beyond because I got all the books for it.
Yep, same. Except for with all the homebrew skills and features, it's much easier to just use a homebrew sheet.
Yeah.
But when I do base 5e, I definitely use D&D Beyond.
I used to use Mythweavers, but then they had that fucking database loss where I lost a shit ton of sheets.
Yep, same here. Anyways, that's I think that's pretty solid stuff right there. Regarding work going forward, I mean, obviously at this point we still have a lot of lore to do. So if you guys want to write stuff up, that's cool. If you want to do homebrew stuff, I believe Shrub has the thing for that. Yes.
Yeah, there's a link. It's pinned in council. It's also pinned in homebrew discussion. You can submit your forms there. All of them have been looked at so far. We've got, I think, 19 out of 36 that can be go through the process of getting put into the world.
Excellent.
I don't know what our creation team is looking like because I'm not actually planning to be on it, but I can do the grunt work of this will work for the world.
Yeah.
But we'll talk with Corey.
Yeah, I think when we get the teams assigned, we can go over that properly. For now, I think we can just know that it's there and we have progress.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a question.
Yes.
Are we accepting any other GMs or adding people, or are we at a standstill right now while we still get stuff together?
So at this point, we're basically just doing a lot of lore and custom system work. I am not against getting that kicked off, though I would like the training team to be ready for it before we do kick it off. I know there are some changes that you guys were working on, so once that's set up, I think we can open up the training once more. The form does need to be updated though, because it's currently set to Verum and the Verum rules.
My personal opinion is finish up the aspirants we currently have, but don't accept new aspirants until we shift the application towards a volunteer system.
Yes, agreed.
I think we should still look for tech though, right? Because we have 2 people.
I mean, going forward, it definitely would be nice to have more tech, but we are not able to really pay. I mean, I can drop some funds down, but I don't know how much they're going to be asking for. So if it's a couple hundred, I can cover it. If it's a couple thousand, I cannot.
Well, I mean, yeah, the idea would be that they're volunteer,
Yeah,
there were
definitely we
definitely
can
some
look for volunteers.
Yeah.
I can help look for the tech volunteers. I have a large circle of people I can ask around in.
Oh yeah, wait, you can't see messages while recording, lol. Also don't worry about that for now, NERP.
Let's see.
Tech shouldn't be paid.
Tech
it's the requirement of what the tech actually needs that might require payment though.
Yeah.
If there's a server hosting thing,
If they are making a website, then yes, payment.
Well, bots technically also require a server to be hosted on as well, so that requires money.
If it's a hosting thing, I can pay for that. Most server hosts aren't too expensive, so I can just add that to my monthly shoops and whoops. Or annual, if they have an annual subscription, which would be preferred for me.
I would put money toward it too. It's not a big deal.
I think the most expensive it'd probably get is at most $50 a month, and that's assuming we have a ton of servers, bot server stuff. But that's high end,
Yeah, I mean, I already have I think 6 people on Patreon that I'm sub to because they do good map work. So I'm good to drop small money on peeps, especially if they're doing work for us. I just don't have massive funding.
What do you mean you can't drop $30,000 right away?
No. Don't even have that in my bank account right now. I was just slammed with money recently.
As a whole, every single role in the server as it is should be volunteer work. You need to consider things as having little capital because this is not a burden anyone should be taking on, much less NERP.
Yes.
Yeah, and I also talked about this with NERP when I talked with him privately. If we start the server off as free to play, it should always be free to play. Otherwise, if we decide one day to swap it and say, okay, now everyone who's here has to pay money in order to stay, it would be an absolutely horrible move, and PR-wise, our server would crash and burn.
Yes, agreed.
So even if we start monetizing aspects of the game, if they were previously free to play, it'd be a horrible thing to do, basically.
Regarding that, though, I
Because
definitely
if we
want.
talked about this
Real quick, I definitely want DMs to be able to be tipped. So if you guys do go DMing, and you should probably just put a tip box in your own DM session server, because I imagine most people here will be probably having their own little server with their games that they run for the living world. So having a tip box there would be good, just as long as it's clear that we're not being pushy. If they want to tip you, then cool, you point them there, but, I don't want us to
I
be
agree
like,
a sudden shift would be terrible.
yeah.
My suggestion was shifting towards suggesting indirect tips or server donations in the future.
Agreed.
Yeah, the only thing we might want to avoid is the server donations because that can cause problems legally, and that's an entire other topic, honestly. The individual tips though, I don't think would cause any problems because that's just like I don't know how to describe it well because there's not really any comparisons that exist other than
True
like the
time
porn
to get
industry.
Wizard of the Coasted Poggers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Personal tips are, I believe, fine regards being like legal issues.
Yeah.
I mean, most tips tend to be donations, which means you don't even need to really. To be clear,
Oh,
I am not an accountant or a tech, not tech, a tax person, but I believe you don't need to mark those on your W-2s.
Yeah, you do not. You do not. I would know. I've done work like that in the past, and yeah. Also, as a side note, the server boosting thing does not actually pay out money. It's just benefits for the server.
Yeah.
However, that will not always be the case. Discord has stated in the partner server a few times that they're planning on making server boosts actually profitable for servers, but maybe in small amounts, as basically a way to donate to a whole server. And because that'd be Discord owned, that'd be a different thing altogether. I don't know how legally that would even work. So,
Interesting.
But yeah, server boosts as of right now, because they don't give any money out to the owner of the server, you can absolutely do server boosts as like a way of helping the server, even though, all it does is make voice channels better, really.
Yeah.
Since we're already on the topic of kind of this, as far as creating a Twitch team, is anyone going to start that, or should like I try and go ahead and?
Yeah, I was going to actually talk about that as well. I would like to help out with the whole Twitch thing. I myself
You
am
what
not a Twitch
team?
streamer. The Twitch team or YouTube team, media team,
Well,
basically.
the impromptu meeting, it was the idea that if all those who do stream or want to stream their games, pretty much we'd all like be a part of there's a little tag underneath the streamer where it says Twitch team. So people who are curious about the living world of Syrik, they can, click on it and it will bring up the whole list of all the DMs that stream and whatnot. And this
Yeah.
can pretty much help us boost publicity. It will also help provide payment for DMs, as many Twitch streamers have a Streamlabs or some type of link you can click to donate. But yeah.
Yeah. Definitely having
Oh,
that.
that's cool, although I think we should hold off until we actually start running games.
Yeah, I mean, getting the setup now isn't it's gonna take like 5 minutes. So having it set up and ready, excellent. I don't think we need to do anything crazy. Definitely should start helping people in the meantime who need help learning how to stream and whatnot. I also think we should have a central YouTube channel. I know this was suggested to me earlier. I can't remember from who though, but the YouTube channel. Hello.
Yes, that was me.
Yeah. Having the YouTube channel where we just post all of our VODs or link our VODs as playlists in it. Just so like anyone who is interested in looking over what missions have been taking place, the lore, whatnot, can just go to this YouTube channel.
Yeah, and it'll also be a way for us to eliminate a lot of the overhead, because if we had a central Twitch channel, the problem is we need to be constantly hosting people, and that requires someone to be active on the Twitch channel at all times, basically watching what's happening, so that nothing weird happens. With the YouTube channel, however, people could just send us their video files and be like, hey, this is something that's happened in the world, can you upload it to the YouTube channel with this title? And then bam, that's it. It's a lot easier, basically.
Yeah.
So on the previous line of discussion, let's just set a baseline and anyone with thoughts can speak up. Does anyone have thoughts on the server and community being free to play?
I think it's fine, but like as long as we can get it fully automated and no one's spending like 8 hours looking through trade transactions and stuff like that, that's fine. if we can't, if people are going to be spending massive amounts of time that they volunteer just doing a bunch of drudgery like that, then I would want to compensate them somehow.
Yeah, I definitely want to get the tech team set up so we can get automation made, and I'm willing to slam money toward those people to get that ready for us. Regarding that, though, it did remind me of something else. Feel free to continue with this, but I'm going to go note this down in a notepad so I don't forget. Because I feel like this is something we should discuss. But, you know, okay, carry on.
And I guess DM should be just free to like open up like games for commission, like on the last server in like the LFG. That's it.
So should we actually be looking for more tech right now, or not? And how do you want that done?
I think we should.
I say we should, but we probably maybe want to wait like a week or two to see where the structure of this whole team leads first before we start like developing the bots at the very least.
Yeah. I think we should. I think, as Chris said, we should wait a little bit. I think that we should discuss with our current tech peeps, decide what they think would work best, how, who we should focus on getting on the team and whatnot, and what they think we'll need to get what we are actually wanting to do in terms of like automation, and what the pay will look like, so I can get an idea of what I'm going to be slamming down. And then we can get a full team set up for us.
Sounds good.
So is there anything else to discuss this meeting?
There's one last thing that I had. Other than that, I am Gouda. But regarding PvP, I think PvP is a necessary evil. I also don't like it. But I also think that we can limit it to certain channels. That way it's not the same as before. It's more akin to, if any of you have played Albion Online, akin to that, where most regions tend to be blue, which means that it is PvP free. Some regions are green, I believe. Maybe I flipped those. Anyways, some regions are green, which would be PvP if you're at war or if you're a bandit. Then there's regions that are red, which are PvP free. And then there's regions which are black, which are PvP free, but essentially it's I don't, that one's not really necessary. It's just a worse version of PvP red.
So yeah, my main concern with this is that people might abuse this. They might go to a region that is where PvP is off and just start insulting or berating other people in RP.
So the main thing RP-wise, why these are blue, green, red, is that the guards are there and are so prominent that they can stop most issues. So if a player does start being an asshole, the guards can come in and handle their business.
Okay.
If it does occur that PvP needs to occur, I mean, the guards can just send that guy to jail. And, we can have a jail system where it's akin to, like, Skyrim or something. I don't really know right there. But
we also don't allow griefing or anything like that if he's actually being a jerk.
Yes.
Yeah.
If you're just
the other question I have is in regards to the criminal underground. I'm not sure how this server is going to look at criminal characters or evil characters, but generally, if you want to have a rather open living world, it's nice to give some kind of, I don't even want to say safety net, but reason for criminal characters to exist. So by basically restricting certain channels to be non-PvP, it basically means criminal characters cannot exist in those channels. Otherwise, they would basically be unable to act, And I think that might cause problems, especially if we want to try to develop criminal systems like assassins, thugs, pickpockets, saboteurs, etc.
So, I don't think we need to directly label that cities have guards, because that just sounds what it is, basically. And I do want there to be crimes, because crimes are also like adventures. So, yeah. When we were still working on Glias, we had the idea that, like, even if you put your money in a bank, eventually that bank is going to be transporting your money to its other subsidiaries to just like, supply them with coin. And at which point your caravans that technically have your gold can be like robbed and stuff. Or you can go and guard a caravan and stuff like that.
So the way I handle this on another server is we make so part of the guild/business system on the other server is actually having criminal systems as well. So there is some kind of structure to the criminal system where if you're a reckless criminal and you just rob someone in broad daylight, the guards will literally just attack you and stop you. But if you want to be a more successful criminal, the criminal underground has tools, items, etc., like invisibility potions and all that, so you can actually do that. The idea being that being a criminal is difficult because you need to actually pull it off without getting caught.
That's true.
That reminds me, isn't that like a similar spirit or similar in spirit to how like you couldn't be evil unless you were in a faction in the previous phases?
Yeah, because your goals were aligned to it. Because then your goals were aligned, and it wasn't just griefing people when you were dicks to them.
Yeah, I could be in favor of adopting like no criminals unless they're a part of some organized gang.
Yeah, well, I mean,
to me.
The idea being that if there are criminals outside of an organized gang, they're usually stupid and will thus get thrown into jail very quickly. Either that or they're actually like high-level characters that can do this on their own.
I would favor just banning it. Just you can't do it. You're out if you do. Like you have to.
I mean, it's a self-regulating system, so I don't really see a reason not to allow it.
Yeah, I mean, people should be free to be stupid as
basically.
adventurers because that is honestly a lot of what their actions consist of.
Yeah, I imagine we'll see occasionally someone in out-of-character chats asking, so I can attack anyone? And then they just go up to a random, like, level 1 and start punching them, and a guard just teleports in front of them and casts Fireball.
Oh, no.
Or even worse, hold person, and then the player just goes, hey, that's unfair, and then we're like, well, we did tell you.
I do like the civilian system where it was like the guards were actually players that chose to play as guards.
Yeah,
I think I don't know how valuable that's going to be.
I think we're still going to implement that for the most part with the civilian system. The civilian system still has a lot of work to get done, as far as I'm aware, and it's going to be mostly integrated. But yeah.
Oh, man,
well, it didn't have a lot of work, but if we're reworking it, then yes, I would imagine it would.
Yeah, we're reworking it to be integrated with the rest of the entire server, so therefore we need a lot of work to be done, and also some other systems need to be added as time goes on.
Personally, I mean, I don't think we should allow player freedom just for its own sake. If something's going to cause a problem, we should just ban it. That's my take.
Hold on. Let me come back to you with this. Okay, so we're both on the same mission, and there's this rule in Adventurers League where if it's your first mission where a magic item drops and you're like level 1, you get to claim that magic item as you wish. Now, this has become its own racket of people making constant level 1 characters and getting items for an Adventurers League, just getting them because they keep on playing level 1 characters. Now, say we're in Syrik. We're not technically doing that, but there's a reward from a mission, and I say, hey, I have 3 other friends in here. Why don't we vote on who gets the item? My 3 other friends on the mission with you all vote that I get the item. To you, it seems very strange, and you have no recourse but to accept that I get this item. And then you get paired with me on a mission again and again, and we keep on outvoting you because we put more people on missions that are part of the same group. What's your resort?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of the thing I'm getting at, is that there are going to be times where crime is something that someone wants to do, and if we basically say, hey, no personal PvP because it causes problems, that's going to result in a lot of people being upset and people being like, why can't I attack this person? And we're just like, because it's a minor petty crime and you'll just get thrown in jail. And they're like, so I want to attack them. So,
I think overall, it should be had PvP and crime and whatnot, but the consequences of it should be real, and it should be something that players want to avoid.
Yeah.
I mean, another
I think that go ahead. Actually,
I was gonna say, like, it would also be a thing where if you are part of the criminal faction, having the other good or lawful aligned factions are going to be on your case.
Yeah,
and like
typically.
make sure that that is definitely being brought up, that bounties are not only um, made by just some random NPC. They're actually like could be player bounties on another player. It could be a faction bounty for a certain faction, and it allows this kind of interesting, unique dynamic that like wouldn't normally happen.
Agreed. What was I gonna say? I don't remember now. Rip.
Didn't you say you had a system you were going to talk about, or is this it?
Maybe. My mind just completely blanked right there. This is empty. Is a void.
You're fine.
Yeah. Regarding tipping, tipping does suck. I agree. It's definitely not. We're not. To be clear, going forward, we are volunteers. If you guys would like to tip, I encourage you to have one in your own server so people can just click on it and then tip you. That's the whole thing I was going with there.
And we're not. This isn't a, like tipping like waiters getting tipped where we're paying them and then we're paying them less and giving them tips. We literally cannot pay you, and so therefore the only way you can make money is through these tips if you want to make money, basically.
And through Twitch streams as well, as that will increase your exposure, which will yeah.
Me.
But
I'm very happy this is not my job.
Yeah. Oh, I remember now. Regarding the real quick, although I would probably write down your question so you don't forget it, unless your memory's solid. For PvP, an idea which would be a very large deterrent, but I can also see it being some of a reason to do crime, would be if you are jailed, any experience you have gained going towards the next level, so if you're like level 5 and you need 500 experience to level up, that is brought back to as if you were just barely hit level 5 if you are jailed. That is a pretty big deterrent against doing crime, or more specifically, getting caught.
I mean, there's also other options where we could literally make it so their character is unplayable and they can't swap their character out for a short amount of time.
That too. That also works.
I want people to play games, so I think taking away levels is a lot easier.
I mean, it might be more problematic though, because imagine you're like a level 20 character and you've been doing this crime thing for a while, and suddenly someone catches you because they caught you off guard with something, and you lose 5 levels as a result. That's going to set you back immensely.
I don't mean level loss. I mean experience loss that puts you back to where you were at the beginning. So level 20 characters can do things fine.
I feel like then that problem would be that wouldn't matter for some characters who are just hitting their new level. That would be like, oh, I could just do crimes with no punishment now.
Well,
you know.
Yeah. I think we should have a either or system depending on the situation.
I think fines plus a actual timer for like how long they can't play their character, but not going for very long would work. You know.
Hey, guess what? I actually have an entire spreadsheet that consists of crimes that exist in the world and a proposal as to how much people should be penalized.
Annie, no, please don't bring it back out.
Anyways, that's a discussion that I think is more focused on one specific department. It doesn't really need to be here.
Indeed.
I don't really think it's the best idea, but there is the inherent reputational impact as well as a punishment.
True.
I don't think it's that great of a thing to focus on too much, but it is something to take as a thought.
It's definitely true. The inherent reputation was a huge deterrent, I believe, back in the previous phases, because like one person PvP'd someone, and the entire living world essentially turned against them. So it's a pretty big thing.
So my issue, and I don't know how you can say we can't have PvP, but my issue with PvP, like, yes, put the put the crimes or the jail or whatever on the person that did it, make it so they don't want to. But the problem is, it's not like an MMO where you kill somebody and they just respawn. Like, the damage has been done, and that player character is done forever. And people have left servers, broken friendships over that sort of thing. So
So
that is where my issue
that
is
is
with
actually
PvP.
something that goes into how my resurrection works.
Should we offer a respawn benefit?
I think if they do truly die, yes. But resurrection, I do use Matt Mercer's resurrection rules. But in addition to that, one of the ideas I had was if someone does die, like in a fucked up way or something like that, or I would say PvP would be considered, or if they like die to perhaps like something really heroic, like if they stand on a bridge or something like that, we can give them a mission where they can go and move through death and like essentially pull a whole I think it's Perseus maybe Odysseus, some Greek god in the or Greek hero in the underworld trying to bring back their lost love. That whole shtick. If they succeed, they're brought back to life.
Hades.
Yeah, essentially they petition the deity of the underworld. A solo mission for them, where it might be like you go and do this sub quest for me, and that way, if they did die from PvP or something else, they can come back, and it doesn't require any diamond dust or anything of that nature. It's just blap. You have a mission which is more play for you, and you can come back. And it puts your revival entirely in your hands rather than in some random person who thought you looked like you took their puppy or something. I don't really know what you did to get PvP'd.
That's pretty
Any
solid.
limitations on it?
We would need to have some limitations, but overall.
I would definitely say like you can't bait this.
Yeah, definitely can't bait it.
Another thing could be confiscation of magical items, because you prove to be a menace to society. The government will seize your heavily magical possessions or any of your top tier gear, or you've proven yourself to be a menace.
Yeah, that could also
I
work. Regarding Reaper's thing, 100% a party could go into the underworld to save you, and that is a quest line to bring back a dead person. Instead of just using Diamond Dust and casting the resurrection spell, you can do a quest to get someone back alive.
One thing that I would like to say, if we do that, I would like to have some way for that person to also participate, because that sounds good on the face of it. Yeah. They should also be participating with the party.
100%. The way I do that is I give them the reborn race, essentially. So while they're dead, they're reborn, which is essentially like a revenant from Varum, I believe. And they can participate 100% in the mission. They go with the party. They do the thing with them. Actually, my players in Sunday tried this, though they did get nearly TPK. They had to flee from a dragon. So they didn't succeed, but they did do this.
I do think it's a pretty cool idea to let the party help.
Yeah. So that is another way to resurrect without needing Diamond Dust, without needing to worry about the resurrection ritual. Is just, it's there. If you really like a character, you can have a quest for it.
Yeah. And it will also make PvP, rather than, hey, I killed you, get dunked on. It's like, oh, you have an enemy for life now because their party brought them back.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can also come back and be like, haha, now I'm going to try and kill you.
Oh, man, I'm just imagining like a Team Rocket versus Ash. Just a vicious cycle.
Are there any other topics we need to talk about? Because I do need to get going soon.
I think that covers everything I have, unless there's anything else.
Nerp, regarding the PvP, are we still going to follow the rule where a DM can disallow PvP in a game?
For their game specifically, yeah.
Yeah.
I would say after game session, they can just ping a PvP DM.
Because that's what we told a lot of the aspirants during their interviews and stuff, that they could tell the player they don't allow PvP in the game and then they have to handle it outside.
Or, sorry, yeah. PvP DMs can shoops and whoops. I respond to that
Okay.
one incorrectly. 1 second. Oh no,
Yeah.
I was correct. Your question, Patty, yeah, they would just petition the GMs.
So what's our first goal?
Our first goal right now, for those who are wanting to do work, would be to essentially like pick a region, start working on stuff for it. If you have a creative brain, juices flowing, start working on that. If you want to do
A
some
region
homebrew
has a
stuff, that
purple
works too.
mark. You can write some ideas and throw them at NERP.
Yep. What they said. If it has a purple exclamation, you can work on it. If it's one of the regions that doesn't, such as Confederacy, Golden Marches, Barony of Azia, Kaladesh, a few others I'll be adding later tonight. Those ones you can work on them, but you'll be working on more specific things. So like how the noble castes might function, or how the trade there works, for example. It's more focused rather than here's the overarching idea of this region. I already posted basic notes on Trondheim, so you guys can take that and run with it. I'm going to be busy for most of the day, so probably won't be able to get any other regions' basic notes down. But feel free to post me, and I'll see if I can't post some things probably tomorrow for you guys to use. Anything down south on the southern continent, I just have basic concepts down there, so they are free to make countries for entirely. If you're wanting just like a one-word blurb or like a basic sentence, I can also give you that today. But if you want a more in-depth description of certain things, then that'll take a bit more time, probably tomorrow.
Maybe like a whole list of like everything that you have by like next week, so that it gives you time to actually do it, go over your previous notes, then allows us to, submit regions requests and write potential lore backgrounds, or at least as far as that basic kingdom info.
Definitely. I do plan on having a Google Sheet set up for that for next week. Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else to discuss? All right. Well, good meeting.
One thing actually that might help lore writers.
Yes.
Races widely distributed throughout.
They are, yes. This region or this world, I've actually been trying to focus on getting the other races other than humans more well distributed. For example, the Sarkis League in the southwest of the Western continent. That entire country is major. I can't think of the word. The majority of the people there are lizard folk, Yonti, Argyle, which are like crocodile people, reptilians essentially. That is their homeland. I have regions such as the Miro Imperium on the eastern continent in the large savanna area. That is a region of centaurs and other beast folk, so like gnolls and the like. That is their home country. Races are also distributed throughout the world as well, so you might find a grouping of, for example, elves, dwarfs, halflings, and wolf people within the region of Alentis in the eastern continent. So it's just there's crab people actually. I think they're Crystallians. I don't remember the name of them, but they're in the aquatic race, I believe. But yeah, that is that. Hopefully that answers your question.
Excellent, yeah, because knowing how races are distributed and whether they have settlements and communities all around will help people write up stuff.
Regarding Warforged and other constructs, if you're still here, Chrono, since you are privy to the campaign, you might want to deafen for this. For Warforged, they are made. How they're made is very, very important. Any construct in the world is made through the soul of a living creature, which is why it's exceedingly looked down upon by any of the Green Faith if they are aware of this issue. There is actually a whole terrorist organization within the Confederacy trying to stop this. So there's a lot of issues there. Essentially, think of them kind of like the golems from Dragon Age, if you played that, where they were a previous dwarf smelted into a golem form. So for any constructs, there's some heavy stuff going on there. Most Warforged are actually akin to Warforged pre-Rebellion in Eberron lore, so they're fairly subservient. They tend to just do what they're told. Pretty construct heavy. Player character Warforged are those that are free of these binds that have gained essentially sentience. They are hunted down by assassins of the Confederacy if they are found out, so they tend to be with other humans to pretend that they are their master and keep up the charade, or they wear disguises. But that is essentially that idea there. So do keep that in mind for any constructs or Warforged. And I'm gonna let them know they can undeafen. All right. Anything else?
Yeah, I wanted to ask about the heads of the different regions. Is there going to be a date for selecting them, or how is that going to be done?
Probably.
Once we finish structuring, I think.
Yeah. I'll be finishing structuring next week, and we can see about getting people assigned next week as well. It might be the week after that, just depending on which regions we decide, because that'll probably be a meeting for next week as well, which regions we want to actually focus in on. So I will be trying to take the time this coming week to get more lore out of regions so people can start. We can more properly discuss which regions we want to focus in on. But
are there going to be selected from the old group that was selected for clans, or will there be like a new selection?
Just anyone who has interest in, yeah.
When our restructuring is done, we'll probably also want to go back to the kind of mute yourself and let's talk to more or less, because these meetings are getting a little off topic quite often. So.
Yeah. And they'll be more structured when we get to that point. It's fine for now, especially because we have a lot of things that we need to talk about. There's a lot of uncertainties with various things in the world and as a server in general. So don't worry about it for now. But eventually we will be going back to a similar system.
But yeah, any other questions? All right. Good meeting, everyone. Appreciate you taking the time out of your day to, hop in here and help out and all that good stuff. I'm going to close the recording here. Goodbye.